Welcome to the Midwest Moguls Show, where we talk all things business, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Let's dive into today's episode and make business enjoyable again. Welcome back to the Midwest Moguls Show. We have Brendan Piper here in the studio with us today. We are going to go over all things real estate, rental properties. He has amassed quite the portfolio at this current point. So we're going to dive into how he's self-managing them, how he's flipping houses, wholesaling houses, and everything in between. So Brendan, welcome to the show. I guess give us a little bit of background on who you are, what you do, where you're from, and then we'll take the conversation from there.
Sure. Real estate investor. Born and raised in the Milwaukee area, so
Okay.
Wauwatosa.
Nice. Got it.
College. Got into college barely.
Where'd you go?
Stevens Point.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I always tell everyone I went there because it was the only college that
Would take you.
Yeah.
I was a solid C student. So I went there, joined the Army.
Oh, wow.
That was my sophomore year. I signed up.
Okay.
Played a massive role kind of in my life
Yeah.
of joining, and it wasn't a patriotic thing at the time. It was more just I had a tough breakup with the girl. First time I was in love, I was just broken. In conjunction with I've been in sports my whole life.
Okay.
I wrestled in high school and played soccer, and then you go to college, and I was just drinking.
Yep.
And I was bored, heartbroken. I'm like, well, maybe I'll let's try this recruiter,
Yep.
So it was actually right after 9/11, which is pretty
crazy.
And I remember telling my father that, and he's like, hey, he said, before you do anything, just run it by me.
Yeah.
And I don't listen well, and I've always kind of been that way, just do my own thing. And so I signed up for the Army, and I canceled my housing and tuition.
Dang.
I came home with all my stuff in the back of my Toyota Camry wagon.
Yeah. Nice.
And I was surprised.
Yeah.
So it kind of shook the family up a little bit, and I have a little resentment towards my parents in that moment, I guess. But now, being a father, looking back on it, they were just scared.
Yeah.
We're at war, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to go to war. I know some people get sent overseas, but so I only made it I think 4 months, and then I did my first deployment to Iraq.
Dang.
Wow.
Signed up, and so 2004 I was in Iraq. I was 21, 22.
Okay.
Dang.
Came home mentally struggling,
Yeah.
like a lot of vets, right?
Yeah.
Just the journey from being a soldier, losing the innocence, coming home. I don't fit in here.
Yeah.
Right? You feel like you're this 40-year-old war-torn vet sitting with these college kids.
Yeah.
Right? So then I did another year and a half of school, and then I got sent back over to Iraq for my second deployment. So I did 2 of them, by the age of 26.
Holy crap.
So that really, that was probably, the top 3 things that really sculpted me and kind of changed my life.
How long were you active duty for?
So in the reserves, I was with the 432nd Civil Affairs Battalion out of Green Bay.
Okay.
A reserve contract is generally a 6x2 contract.
Okay.
So you are in the reserves for 6 years.
Yep.
And you have your 2 days out of every month that you have to show up to your drill.
Yep.
Right.
And then your 2 weeks during the summer.
Okay.
And then the last 2 years of your contract is called the inactive ready reserve.
Yeah.
So that's where you don't have to go to drill. But, if your country still needs you,
right,
they can grab you from that bucket.
Dang.
Yeah, so I ended up just drilling out my last 2 years. So I did 8 years total because they needed civil affairs specialists, and I knew it. Our unit was actually the most highly deployable unit in the state of Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
Excuse me. So if you do that, now all the other civil affairs battalions, your name's in the bucket. And any one of them can grab you. And I knew, I mean, my marriage wouldn't have made a third deployment. I was already, I mean, I was in it, you know, struggling. And so I just drilled out the last 2 years with my unit, because then only my unit could come and get me.
Yep.
Okay.
And I kind of knew where we were at. So
Right.
It's definitely not for the pay, because soldiers don't get paid that much.
Crazy.
That's so then man, that's kind of crazy. So obviously after, are you still currently in the reserves or no? Are you out now?
No, I'm out now.
Okay.
So it was 2002 to 2010.
Okay. Wow.
So 8 years.
Yeah.
Dang. And then once you got out, what was the kind of, obviously, did you go back to school? Did you ever finish that out or?
I did. Yeah. I ended up, came home.
Yep.
I didn't want to go back.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine.
You know, you're just kind of like, so I was actually selling cars at a Wild Toyota in West Dallas off of Highway 100.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom kind of financially coerced me to go back and finish up.
Yep.
I don't know if it was good or bad. You know, I don't really see it that way. Like,
correct.
As an entrepreneur, we all know that some of the most successful people have never done college.
Yep.
I didn't learn much in college, I guess. You know, it was more
the experience in a way.
Yeah.
Or just.
Yeah, I mean, it was more like to make mom happy.
Okay.
Right? I think our parents, right? Like, it was proven, like, if you went to college in their generation, like, you would step up in society. And, like, you would make more money, and they could prove that. You know, as an entrepreneur, I mean, that's so far from the truth. I mean, some of the most successful guys out there, they got dyslexia.
Yeah. It's him. Joe does.
Yeah.
Isn't that why? You know, so I mean, you mix up words. You can hardly read menus. I mean, that's Damon John too, right, from Shark Tank.
Yep.
And it's like, no, that formal education, I think, we're different than what the average person kind of feels
100%.
about it, you know?
Well, now knowing, like, because obviously there's certain things, and I think that conversation, even with like people Joe and I's age. How old are you, Brendan?
42.
Okay, so you're young. But it's like I'm almost 30 on my side, but even that pressure to go to school, to achieve something, do something, whatever the case is, it's still very present, even in today's day and age. What would you, because you have 2 kids, 2 or 3?
Yeah, 2 boys. Yeah.
Boys.
Yeah.
In your mind, is the thought like, hey, if they want to get a specialty degree, do they pursue college, or are you kind of almost already, and I don't know if they're in public school or if you're homeschooling or whatever the case is, but would you push them towards college now, or are you just full on into entrepreneurship?
No,
what are your thoughts?
Dude, I love this conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like college, you know, and I think, I struggle sending my boys off to school right now. Like, at some point in time, you realize that we're all trained.
Correct.
Yep.
You know, and it's like every once in a while I just have these epiphanies, and like my 8-year-old boy, like, he's getting up at like 7 a.m. and he's got his backpack on, and you just see him like waddle out to the bus stop, and you're like, bro, he's 8. Like, we're already ingraining him into this society of this 8-hour, 40-hour work week. And so I hate it. It's just right now I don't have a really good solution for me and my family as a way that we can combat that. So I'm 40% disabled through the military. And once you're north of 30%, your kids actually get free in-state college tuition,
I didn't know that.
which is amazing.
Huh.
So that's available.
Yep.
I don't like anything free, though. You know, like, I think that's a disaster to hand a kid that doesn't have any skin in the game, you know, 40, 50, 60, 70 grand.
Yeah.
You know, on top of that, I mean, like you're saying, it's like, if it's a specialty,
Correct.
Does he want to be a doctor? You know, but like, man, I would just love it if they went into business. And I'm hoping and praying. Like, I just think that'd be the coolest shit in the world to have like one or both of your boys with you.
Right.
Correct.
And I got one boy that's a freaking electrician. I can see my youngest doing that. And my other boy's he's like me. He's going to be a sales guy. And it's like,
Dang.
that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
As well as the 2-year tax, you can use that and that funding as well. And I see that as, I mean, as we know, man, to find good contractors.
It's insane.
Electricians, plumbers, contractors, they don't charge you 80 to 100 an hour. You can't make money on a damn flip at 80, 100 an hour. No. And I want to get them paid, but I'm looking at my numbers and I'm like,
you can't.
It doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Then you start losing money.
Yeah,
it's like,
not a charity.
Yeah. You can't look at it from both sides of the coin.
And do you recognize certain things? Obviously, with your kids, you already have, but like the strong suits of like maybe your oldest is more like you, your youngest is more like you, and then the next one is more like your wife in their capabilities, their strong suits. Like, do you see that happening already at the age that they're? Yeah, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I've been able to focus on that more. I don't feel that my parents did a good job guiding me. Not that they didn't love me. I mean, I had great parents, but it's just a different world. I think as an entrepreneur, you're almost trained to like have that superpower of like eyeing someone up and be like, what is your gift? Right? Like in getting that person in the right seat, you know? And I had my oldest came home yesterday. He was talking to my wife and he's like, man, I think, you know, some of my classmates says I have ADHD. And I like it like, and I like ran upstairs and like, what'd you just say?
Exactly.
I was like, what is ADHD? And he, you know, ADHD and he's like, well, it's like autism. I said, that's why you don't listen to kids, man. And I was like, they don't know what they're talking about. But like his brain is like mine in that a lot of entrepreneurs have an ADD brain or an ADHD brain. And like I've done enough inner work now. And I've struggled with ADHD my whole life, but like I'm training him that his mind is like a Ferrari.
Correct.
So if he's enjoying something and loving someone, he will pick up knowledge faster than almost any human being on this planet.
Correct.
And he will be able to like see things that other people won't be able to see like I can. But if he's not interested in that subject.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's like pulling teeth basically because I have ADHD too. And it's a different way of thinking, and the more you talk to, I guess the more I talk to like people that maybe don't have it, it's interesting to find out it's like, oh, so your mind doesn't work like this, and you feel a little weird. Like you definitely, you know, it's growing up, it was always kind of tough, and I struggled with because I always felt like I was different, and different was a bad thing. And now knowing what I know now, I've realized that, you know, I can actually utilize this as like my superpower and a gift and harness it and actually, like you said, focus on the things that I'm passionate about and I really enjoy doing versus trying to basically struggle and just like, struggle through the mud basically on a subject that I have zero interest in and zero desire to learn more about. But I mean, as I've gotten older, I've definitely gone back and gotten into subjects that maybe I didn't enjoy at first growing up. And I'm like, you know what, this is actually really interesting. I want to like learn up about it. And then I'll just take hours and just, you know, basically do a lot of research and everything. And it's crazy. And it's like, I learn everything I need to know basically right then and there versus having to go through schooling and doing all that. So I think you kind of have to learn at your own pace. And when you do find those interests, you just take the reins and just go all in basically. So it's interesting though.
Yeah, and that is a struggle with formal education for me, and it's always been because 90% of those subjects I was never interested in.
Oh, they're terrible.
Yeah.
So as you're growing up as a kid, you really do believe that you're not smart. Like the amount of hours I studied in college to get B's is insane. Like my wife now, girlfriend at the time, she was like, he's for sure cheating on me. Because I was always gone, but I was just in the library because I had to read it 4 times.
Right.
Where when you like something with our minds, like it's just like it's an addiction.
Yeah.
And it's just like give me more,
Yep.
and I want this source, and I'm going to talk to this person. And like, I see that in my oldest, from like Pokemon cards, and like when he's in it,
Yeah.
and he knows all the different types and the kinds and what they morph to, and it's like, and it's like depth of knowledge, right? It goes so deep. And I found in business, it's like with our personality, it's scary because like we like the next thing, right?
Yeah.
We like the shiny thing, and most entrepreneurs, I feel they lose everything because of their lack of focus.
Right.
And so I've had to learn to like through working out, and I take a shit ton of supplements and meditation and mind breathing of just like go deeper. Like real estate, I'm gonna win.
Yep.
Like just keep going deeper with the rentals. Keep like, don't go wider. Like let's try. Like I want to try Airbnbs like 8 times. I'm like, stop.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
Like stop. It's a whole nother business. It's a different skill set.
It's
like
different.
It's like everyone's just like, oh, it's real estate. Like no. Every flipping is different than wholesaling is different than rentals. Like it's
a different business for each and every one.
Yeah.
So if you're doing flipping, wholesaling, and rentals, you basically have 3 different businesses that have 3 different processes and systems that go along with it. And you have to really understand that if you want to be successful in all 3. And that's what we found is like with Airbnb, we're actually going through the process of trying to sell one of our Airbnbs that's on Lombardi, by Lambeau Field. So we kind of came to the realization, it was an awesome opportunity. We had a lot of fun with it, but we also realized that we don't have the time or the knowledge to keep this thing moving and basically be making a decent amount of income off of it, just because we're so focused and dedicated on the flipping and the wholesaling side.
Well, I think it drains you. Like that's like the Airbnb. It's like
it's discouraging
even with
too.
like managing. Like we used to manage our rentals, and that's what we'll get into next with you. But then I'm like, this is literally draining me. Like when the tenants call me and they're like, hey, this needs to, like, I need to repair this or whatever the case is. So I'm like, okay, we'll hire property management to take care of kind of the day-to-day operations.
Right.
In the essence, we're still like we have a tenant upstairs here. Like we filled the unit, so we can basically do a background check, make sure all the boxes are checked on that side. But then they just handle the day-to-day, and we pay 6% or whatever it is. But it alleviates so much of the crap that comes with it. And then they're making sure that rent is paid on time. And because that's where, like, even on the Airbnb, it's not necessarily difficult, but the fact that, okay, you have to hire a cleaner, you have to reply to the guests in a timely manner, it's a hospitality business. And that's where Tyler Cabot was in, and he was telling us about it, and we were going to have him manage it, but I'm like, it's honestly, the return on investment is just not there. And I would rather stick it into normal rental properties that you can lease up for 12 months and not necessarily worry about a whole lot.
Yeah.
So
100%.
It's like that's the one business that like it seems so bright and shiny, but I think once reality sets in, it's a little bit different. And it depends on the personality type. I think probably you and Joe are very, very similar from the personality side of things, that it might not be the strong suit to go that route with the business, because like stuff just gets left out.
No, I mean, and those people too, it's like it's kind of more of a white glove treatment, right?
Very much.
It's like my brother manages, he's in Austin, Texas, and he's kind of getting into it, and it's cool, and he does high end.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, like thousands and thousands of dollars
dang.
per day for a rental, right?
Holy crap.
So it's that experience, but for me, it's like it like you said, like it annoys you, or the exact word you said, like no, for me it's just like it's another prom.
Yep.
If they're asking like, hey, where's the salt shaker? I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna disrupt my day over a salt shaker, right?
Right.
Like, that's not good business. You can't say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, because like if they're spending $400, $500 and they want salt, you need someone to be like more like my wife and like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, did you look behind the microwave? And I'd be like, bro, just put pepper on it.
Yeah.
You know, like use some pepper shake.
Yeah.
You know,
There's other spices at the house.
Yeah.
Just find them, please.
Yeah. Just use the Lowry's.
Exactly.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Lowry's.
So for you, what stemmed the interest in real estate? Because obviously you had like a lot of prior experience in different things, but what made you, or how long ago did you get into real estate?
Yeah.
13. I want to say it was 13
Okay.
years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, about 13 years ago. Yeah, so I did sales for a
Yep.
Fortune 1000 company, Heartland Payment Systems. So
Okay.
it was credit card processing, the 5th largest processor in the United States,
Dang.
payroll, 100% commission.
Yeah.
So like you're knocking on doors every
Correct.
day of restaurants
Man.
and bars.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the most competitive industries in the United States.
Mhm.
And so I really learned how to sell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I had some top managers, you know, one that's still running the entire state of Wisconsin. Like I was never good at systems and processes, you
Mhm.
know, and like I remember him coming over and like I had just like these stacks of credit card statements.
Mhm.
And that's what you do. You collect credit card statements, you'd see what you could save the money on.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because every time you swipe a card, you have a fee
Yep.
Yep.
and a percentage taken out from Visa and MasterCard as well as the processor.
Mhm.
Well, dude, I wasn't even running a closing appointment.
Yeah.
Like he came over and he's like, so did you like run second
Yeah.
appointments on all these? And I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, dude, like you have to run
Yeah.
the second appointment, the closing appointment, you know? And so I had amazing training through
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
The book that got me interested in real estate, what that got me interested is which is insane,
Yeah.
they actually still pay me. And I quit that 9 years ago and Heartland still pays me.
Really?
So once I saw passive income,
Yep.
Residuals,
Yep.
as you call it, I was hooked.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was like, wait a minute, I sign this client up and I sign up whoever, right?
Mhm.
A
Mhm.
supper club,
Mm-hmm.
and I can get paid the rest of my life on this. I
Mhm.
did one transaction and now I get $44 every month on the 15th for the rest of my
Yeah.
life.
Dang.
And I was hooked on that.
Mhm.
You know, it was like that, okay, that passive income or that long-term wealth. And,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
so I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad
Yep.
in Iraq, in Sadr City, in a war zone.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that got me hooked. I mean, that's a lot
Yeah.
of people's book, and it was simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I just resonated with it. I love the idea of just being your own boss,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
creating something. And the component, I guess, of and I don't even know if I knew it at the time, but just how bad of an employee I was going to be.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, exactly.
And like knowing that you have the freedom to kind of like do your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think a lot of us are kind of hardwired that
Mhm.
where if you put me or probably you guys
Yeah.
in a cubicle,
Mm-hmm.
It drives you crazy.
Yeah. I feel like a rat.
dude,
Yeah.
I couldn't.
I can't.
No, like I'll shut down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like all your creativity. That's what Joe and I were talking about
Yeah.
yesterday. It's like when you're stuck and you're not talking to other people like this, even having conversations like this, it just opens your mind to different
Mm-hmm.
avenues that you can pursue.
Yeah.
But if you never get that and you're surrounded by the same group of people every single day and you're stuck in the same place every single day,
Mm-hmm.
it just, for certain mindsets, I think it just destroys them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And then it's like, hey, your potential was way up here.
Yes.
This is what you achieved over the course of your life just because you never pursued the opportunities that were in front of you. And you, whether you're nervous or scared or whatever the case is, there's plenty of those scenarios. So then like the credit card processing, obviously you got them on a reoccurring basis, and then that kind of stemmed the interest into rentals from the sounds of it.
Real estate in general, I
Yeah,
guess.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I hooked up with my uncle in California. He was
Okay.
the only one that had a rental property.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like someone in the family, right? You're looking to go to this course with,
Yeah.
you know, to split
Right.
the
Yeah,
cost,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I took an Armando Montalongo course, which was one of the early guys doing HGTV.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Maxed out all the credit cards. His sales pitch was so good, kind of
That's
kind of slimy, but good, you know. So I came home with, I think, 25,000 in credit card debt, and at that time, I mean, now that's nothing. Like that's kind of every day you carry that, and
Exactly.
you know what I'm saying? It's like, but then it was like this massive weight, which is what I needed because I was scared. Like this debt, 25,000. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna try to flip a house.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like I need to flip a house to pay this debt off, and so I did a flip in Menasha,
Okay.
1922 Beck Street.
Still remember it. The
Dang.
first,
Yeah.
the first one. It's all
Which
the
is
first
crazy.
deals.
And what's crazier than that is, you guys know Jackie Conkle?
Yeah. Yep.
They flipped that exact same house, which is insane before me. And so they did a presentation, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, holy shit, we flipped exactly the same house.
That's
crazy.
nuts.
Yeah. So I did that, you know, made $26,000, paid my uncle 13.
Yep.
And like that moment, I was hooked.
Yep.
Like to see the big chunk of change.
Right.
And that was so much money to me. You know, you felt like, you know, you found the golden ticket. All of a sudden, like, how long does it take to make $26,000 if you're making $15 an hour, right?
It's crazy.
You know, and I knew what my parents were making growing up, and I'm like, is this real? Like I want to do this.
Yeah.
Like I can be my own boss. It was still scary through the process. You know, it took 6 months. It took too long, and you know, you got no idea what you're doing on your first flip. But like, you know, you use the realtor and you use the contractors, and you kind of like figure it out, kind of. And then all of a sudden it closes, and you're like, all right, we got to do another.
Correct.
One.
Yeah.
Like, let's do another one.
And then it's like an addiction. And then you're trying to, and do you see now, like, and Joe and I were talking about this, that, and we had a guy in here not too long ago, but like on that first deal, it's like, okay, 26 grand. And our first deal was not that good. Our deal was like break even.
Yeah,
so that's a little bit of a different story. But like now you're almost so accustomed to like, hey, I had a $20,000 pop or a $30,000 pop, and you're like, hey, it's almost expected now. And that's where I think you grow so accustomed to it that you don't really take it in as you once did. And I don't know if that's detrimental to the actual mindset of things, or if your standards are just that much more elevated. So it's just an interesting concept that something in the beginning that seems so foreign, and maybe that's the reasoning, because it's like you're getting proof of concept, and then you also just made a ridiculous amount of money that you never thought even possible. So I think that's very, very interesting. But then, so you did the first one, and now your business is catapulted like through the course of time, and like obviously you have 60-ish rental units right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's insane. It is
Yeah.
insane. That's like a lot to.
How long did that take you to, I guess, acquire? Like,
probably 10 years, I think.
10 years. Okay.
Yeah, to acquire it. And I appreciate you guys saying that too, because I mean, you just get, for me, I just have that mindset and personality that it's never enough.
Right.
Which a lot of us do, and it doesn't, it burns you out. You know, and when other investors say that, or other people, it's just like, you got to take that step back, don't you?
You do.
And just look like, okay, where was I 3 years ago? And this is the exercise I've been doing lately, because I realize like I'm never happy, and that's okay. Like I'm not saying like this whole journey that we're on is to be happy. Like that's my personality, but to feel joy along the way.
Correct.
To feel gratitude, to feel like I am growing as a man. Like I'm growing as an entrepreneur. I'm growing as a business person. And the only way I can do it is, you know, the book, The Gap and the Gain. And that book just changed my life. And so like every morning I'm just like, okay, like who was I 3 years ago? Like, and where was my business 3 years ago? And like you picture it. And then to get really excited, it was where was I 10 years ago?
Yeah.
And like I had 0 rentals, 0 and 0 cash flow. And so when you look backwards, all of a sudden you do have this sense of pride, which I don't have a lot of, because I'm always thinking about what's next.
Correct.
You're thinking about the future,
the tomorrow.
Yep. And
I live there, and it's
Yeah.
not healthy. And I'm,
No.
we're all working on our own shit. But it's
Right.
like, I mean, I'd rather be there than looking at the past.
Correct.
I mean, you got like are you an anxious person? Are you a depressed person? Right. People that are depressed, they usually live in the past. Anxious, us folks.
Yeah.
We live in the future, right?
Yeah.
But then that grounds me in like, okay, I'm making progress, and like. So I have it written on my wall of like every year of like 2021, how many units I had, what was my net worth. Because if I don't see all those things that I've done in a year, my mind is just like, you ain't shit.
Yep.
You haven't done anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wish my mind was healthier towards myself, but that's just the way it's wired. It's like, dude, you're nothing. Like you haven't accomplished anything. And so I need to slow it down and remind myself like, well, wait a minute. Is that true? Let's look at this and look at the growth of business and how you've changed. And the other beautiful fact about business, I'm sure you guys are into it too. It's more like the bottleneck is always you. And takes a lot of maturity to realize like your business is only going to grow as you grow, as a man, as a person, as you see your flaws, as you see what you're good at, as well as your health. But I can talk about health forever too, and I think it's intertwined.
Definitely is.
But
and that's where, like Joe and I have had some very deep conversations on that exact same topic of, okay, we have certain expectations of the business. And we have certain things that we want to achieve. And you're always, like you had said, you're always looking at this future goal or future place that you want to be. And you're comparing, and my issue is you almost compare to other people, which isn't a great thing by any stretch of the imagination, because you don't know necessarily what reality is. But in that entire process, like there's something that we all want to achieve at the end of life or throughout life. And it's the process in itself to like try and fall in love with that, what your strong suits are, and pursue that even more. And for me, I was looking at, okay, here's all my roles and responsibilities. And I read the book, Clockwork. I don't know if you've ever read that by same guy who wrote Profit First, Mike Michalowicz.
Okay.
Phenomenal book, even to listen to. And he just said that, like you had mentioned, the bottleneck is you. And the more responsibility that you try to take on, the less the business is going to do, because you're being pulled in so many different directions, versus hiring the basic people to accommodate those $10 an hour tasks, $15, $20 an hour, just to get that off your plate and free up your time to do more of what you actually like to do. And that pushes the needle forward. And what he mentions is there's a certain like queen bee role. So the queen bee within the hive is going to basically make the hive work. Like it's absolutely necessary. All the other bees serve that role. And I'm like, well, in our business, generally speaking, it's the leads that come in, because we're just all kind of inbound on our side. So I'm like, well, if that's the role and I need to make sure leads come in, all these other responsibilities are kind of secondary. And how do I focus more of my time on that? And it opened my mind to the thought process of, we need to start documenting things. We need to start recording things, because if I'm gone or something happens to me, does the business still operate? And as of right now, it's gotten a lot better, but it's still not perfect. And I don't know if anyone will ever be perfect, but you can. It's a difficult process, and that's, I don't know. I think anyone who says they have it all figured out might be full of shit for the most part, because I'm like, this is freaking difficult. And then the stress that comes with it, and the anxiety, and the money that's going out. I'm like, holy crap. Like you're trying to get by, and then put on a persona and put out all these other things that might be valuable, but it's still extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So I just want to acknowledge the fact that, hey, it's like you've done a ridiculous amount over the course of 10 years. And although it never seems like that in your own mind, it's still like the fact of acquiring, like most people want to acquire 10 properties total. to have 60 or 60 rental units or whatever the case might be. It's literally insane. Like you wouldn't, if they're all paid off, you're not working another day in your life if you don't want to.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of the cool part. But have you found, like, from your side of things, is there more enjoyment in the rental properties, the flipping, the wholesaling, or where does the enjoyment actually come from? If you even know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me that I still get the biggest charge is still closing a deal.
Oh, it is.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's the same thing we say all the time.
Like, that is still my high.
Yep.
Everything else is kind of noise. And you got small wins, but still for me, it's still on the phone with a seller, negotiating a tough deal, adding value, getting to the root cause of their issues, building rapport, making it through that beautiful dance and that process, negotiating a deal where you can get it, and then locking it up.
Yeah.
Like that, to me, it's still such a high.
Yeah.
Everything else, I mean, the rentals, I'm at this point too. So my goal, I don't have like long-term goals this year. Like I'm just like, I need systems and processes.
Okay.
So I only have 90 days planned, and like, I'm just going to have my wife follow me around.
Yeah.
And I have 10 years of doing things, shooting from the hip.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worked out okay.
Yep.
Like, I have a decently
I was going to say, it
successful
sounds like it's been working out
business,
pretty good.
but it's to the point now that like I've stifled my own growth in the rentals because I don't want another one.
Yeah.
Like I part of me, right, is exciting. Like, another duplex, right? But then there's this other bigger side that's like, fuck, 2 more people, right? And 2 more tenants and repairs and like
just the issues,
evictions
that come along with
and toilets and like, and that's because I don't have it on paper. So the next 90 days for me, I don't know how much volume I'm going to do, but it's just like, it's all coming out. I'm just putting it on a paper, and like to have a system and a process, and like just to write it out and to see it, and to realize that a lot of my offers that I write, they're not the same every time. And that may be a problem. Like, I just write offers. And people are like, well, what's your checkbox and this and that? And I'm just like, well, I know it'll like cash flow, but I think I'd be a little better business professional if it's like, it must make this.
Right.
My ROI must be that, or I don't write it. Dude, I'm just like, and I think part of me and part of our personality, I enjoy, and I've had to overcome this, I really enjoy feeling like I'm getting a deal. And that can be a struggle for some of us, where it's like if the negotiation is tougher, and even if the deal is not as good, but if I feel like I've had to talk them down, I feel like it's a win.
Right.
But when you look at just the numbers and you take the emotions out of the negotiation, you're like, dude, this is just an average deal. So it's navigating kind of the emotion but that's the only feedback I have, because I don't have it written down. I only write deals if it's whatever it is. A lot of guys are 0.65 minus repairs, or 0.65 minus repairs minus closing, like whatever it is. But like, I need that, and I need it to be structured.
That's like the ultimate thing. And I think like when Joe came on, that was my realization of like, okay, I am shooting from the hip on everything. And then teaching another person that was so eye opening. Because then it
really is.
Oh, and then you're like, like I have so many
flaws.
inefficiencies with what I'm doing. And then, okay, it's not necessarily congruent with what I'm telling Joe and then what I'm actually implementing on my side. I'm like, hey, we need to have the same check boxes across the board. And we've gotten a lot better. It's probably pretty damn accurate with if we both went on an appointment where we're going to be offering at, if you take that example. But if you don't have that, that's where I can see how those issues arise. And then you're like, well, shoot, like how is this? It's not even duplicatable at that point.
Yeah. And that's the idea is then, right? It's like delegating. And I've done an okay job at that, but not, in the same facet. Like my fourth quarter was terrible. And it was terrible because I was diving into QuickBooks and, bringing my wife in, and there's a whole story with that, like, and that did not go good. But it's like you need the systems and processes. And then you have that. I realized too is that you can hire a VA.
Yeah.
And you can pay them $6 an hour if you have it all written down. And like, if they say this, we say this.
Yep.
And to respond to that, we say this. Now you can pay people not a lot of money. You don't need rock stars.
Correct.
You need someone that's just an average intelligence that has a pulse. And then it's like, it's all written down.
Yep.
But otherwise, I have to find people that can kind of go with the flow and adapt. And, it's like, and that's okay. But a lot of us have a hard time finding rock stars.
Correct.
Yeah. But if it's written down, you don't need a rock star.
No.
Right.
VAs are great. I got 2 of them. But it's like, I mean, I'm still calling stupid utility companies.
Yes.
And I'm on the phone with WI for like an hour and a half.
That's terrible.
Like, I mean, like, what am I doing?
Yep.
And then I don't follow up with a lead, or I miss one that can bring my company $20,000.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what you're missing.
Yep. Yeah.
Because if I don't get to that lead, we try to do 5 minutes when the text comes in, right?
Yep.
Like, because we're doing PPC. Well, guess what? Freaking Carter Crowley's going to get it.
That's fair.
Because they're going to scroll down, right? And if I didn't pick up that phone and I don't call them, it's, sell homes for fast. And you do a great job marketing, and boom, I'm calling this guy. And you pick up. And because I was calling We Energies, I missed $20,000.
That's the difference.
And when you see someone else, like if you look at your pipeline, I have a pretty good CRM, and you see, there's nothing that pisses you off more
it's so freaking terrible.
when you're like, you're like, you see either you or Corey Raymond or some of these other guys, and you're like, that address looks really familiar. And you look in your CRM and you're like,
it's so frustrating.
Bro, that was my lead.
Yeah. And you have like a missed follow-up or something like that, and you're like, that could have been mine.
I think that's like the freaking, it like rips your heart out.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what the hell? Like, where did I go wrong? And then, and I've gotten a lot better at like compartmentalizing like those situations, because I would get so freaking mad. And I'm like, what the fuck went wrong? Like, how did I miss this opportunity, or whatever the case is? And whether like, obviously there's the price component to things, but we're just talking in generalities about follow up and even answering the calls or texts. I'm like, God dang it. Like it's so frustrating.
But I think
go ahead.
You kind of have to also look at it from the standpoint of, okay, like you get frustrated because you miss that deal. Someone else picked it up, instead of like, just, I guess, hate on yourself and telling yourself like, come on, you're dumb. Like, why didn't you, do that sooner? Why didn't you call that sooner? You have to kind of look at it as, okay, I messed up there, but next time, what can I do different? Or what can I implement so then that doesn't happen again? And look at it from that sort of, I guess, perspective, versus just starting to dwell on yourself and, beat yourself up for the mistake. That's the biggest thing, because we all have so many mistakes. We lose there's plenty of deals that we've lost, whether it's due to not following up in time, or just, not offering enough when maybe you could have offered more. But then just kind of reflecting, and I think that's the biggest thing, is just reflecting back and looking at it from a different perspective, versus hate towards yourself, and seeing how can you grow from this, and how can you learn from it and do better the next time.
Yeah. And it's, I think it's easier said than done.
It is. No,
like
it
in the reality of it.
It is, but
because it pisses me off
you have
regardless.
I think that's one thing that I've been struggling on, and I've been working on, is just consistently stepping back and thinking that, and looking at it from a different perspective, of how can I maybe change, or what did I do wrong, and how can I change that? And over time, you'll slowly start building a muscle memory and everything. Okay, when this comes in, drop everything else and call this person back, and get that first touch, and at least have a 5-minute conversation with them, get their phone number, and start some sort of dialogue with them.
Yeah, I know. I think that's very valid. And what made you, like, obviously growing up in the Wauwatosa area, what made you stick around here versus, like, and I know you do deals kind of pretty much all over the place, but what stopped you from going back down there, marketing in like Milwaukee, Waukesha County, everything like that?
Yeah, I like the area.
Yeah.
I think it was more of a limited mindset, of like stay local.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it makes sense to do deals where you live, and that's the only way you can do deals. And now you see all these wildly successful wholesalers going nationwide.
Correct.
And they're all remote, right?
That part's insane to me.
Yeah, it really is. It really is to me. And that's something I got to get over. Because we have such a small population base too. Like there are only so many deals in Appleton.
Right.
We got 68,000 people. It's like Milwaukee's got 1.6 in the metro. So I'm doing some deals in Milwaukee now. I haven't had a ton of traction or a ton of success. There's definitely some more sketchy characters down there that will.
That is very true.
I mean, they take deals. They'll go behind your back. They go directly to seller. I mean, there's some, but it's just a bigger city, right? I mean, up here, it's like integrity for me is everything. But like, if you're a shady character up here, like people find out pretty quickly.
Yeah,
very
100%.
Right? I mean, we all talk to each other. Yeah. It's like, yeah, he's a good guy, or like that dude's a piece of shit. And it like, but down there with so many people, I think it kind of opens that up. But yeah, it's different. Each market's different. I think Milwaukee is sellers are a little more hardcore. They're city-like. They talk faster. You get a lot more hang-ups. You get a lot more, hey, man, you called me. What's your offer, bro? You know, like kind of that interaction. We're up here. We're kind and we're nice. And they're like, they'll talk
pace.
to you 10 minutes about BS before you even get into it. Like there, it's kind of more intense, which I can, do fine in that market. But yeah, for me, it's just been like I want to find more consistency. I think is so important, right? And I had a great year. We did like $573,000 worth, like up from 400 previous year. Like, okay, great. But I had a lot of big deals, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like that way more. I like less deals, higher volume. I was the same way with my credit card processing. Like, like you can go to a bar that does $3,000 a month and you're going to make $8 on it. And it takes the same amount of time.
Correct.
And the deal is the same, right? But you don't make any money on it. It's the same process, and honestly, I found that those smaller ones in the credit card processing industry, they tend to be the biggest pain in your ass.
That's exactly
because their business ain't doing well, right? And it's like success breeds success. So I kind of implement that where it's like my average deal. So, I had $100,000 deal last year. I had two $50,000 deals, and it's like, and those are the ones that move the needle. And some of them are a longer process. One was like an 8-month process, but I mean, it's $100,000.
That's huge.
That's a home run.
Yeah, that's huge.
Like,
that's like regardless.
Insane.
But how many? And then it's like how many? Like where do you draw the line? And that's what I'm struggling with. Like I know to get deal flow, I got to be okay with a $5,000 assignment. But gosh, it's so nicer to do a $25,000 deal, one a month, and you're done. Then five.
Oh, it's
hits. It's like it's a lot of work. And like, do I need a transaction coordinator and the title company and the money and buyers? Right? It's like. So then it's. For me, it's kind of figuring out, like, I think what is that bottom dollar where it's worth it? Is it worth it at 5?
Yeah.
Is it worth it at 3? No. I mean, I don't like getting out of bed for less than 10 now. That's just kind of where I'm at.
Correct.
Like a $5,000 deal. Like, I mean, I got, what do I got? Marketing to talk real numbers with you guys and your audience. I think I got, my overhead is probably, I need $15,000 a month to break even, right?
Okay.
So like a $5,000 deal, like it helps, but it's like
it's not.
It doesn't cover the cost.
I ain't even paying my bills with that. And I need 3 more of those just to pay myself now, to pay my wife, to pay marketing. We do. We got $7,500 a month PPC.
Okay.
I I just hired a new guy to do my PPC, which I'm really pumped about because the company I'm working with now, I feel this, what if they go under?
Yeah.
What if it's like a bid? I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's kind of, I mean, it's good for them. It's a little, it's a little sketchy.
Yeah.
But what I like about it is it's a bid. So like you sign up for a county, right?
Yep.
And it's like $100 a lead. I'm like, oh, that's a good deal. Like $100 a lead, send them, right?
Yep.
But then it tells everyone else that wants that county, hey, you just got outbid by Brendan Piper. You know, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, dude, I'll do 125. I'll do 150. So then throughout the year, it fluctuates where I'm paying like $300 for a lead instead of 100, right?
Huh.
But something I also figured out is on occasion, I don't know if they do it every time, but they're selling it to they're selling that same lead multiple times over and over again.
It's not
That's
just
shitty.
you. That's
so I call, right? And I'm like, and they're like, oh, are you so-and-so from this company? And I said,
Oh boy.
And this happened enough times where it's like, if they're selling it to me for 300, what's better for them is they can sell it to 3 other investors for 300. Now they're making 1,200 on that one lead.
Yep.
So that's a little shiesty.
Yeah.
But it's been good. You know, the leads are solid. It's PPC. I love that. But it kind of like, I want to be more in control of my destiny. So I spent the $1,500.
Yeah.
He made me a new website. You know, we've gotten 1 lead in 5 weeks.
Okay.
But I don't know about this stuff, and I don't want to know about it.
Yeah.
Where I guess this is the learning process of Google working, and is this a good lead? And then so I like that. You know, I mean, it's just that was probably, I don't know, 3 years ago. You know, figuring what you said it to be it. I read the book, The One Thing.
Yep.
Is that the guy that owns Keller Williams?
Yeah, Gary Keller, and then Jay Papazan or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
And that was the one, like, that was the idea of that book, right, is great for us. And you said it, right? Is like, what's a one thing that you need to do, like the one domino that if you do it, like, everything else will take care of it. And I knew it was leads.
Yep.
And it was so bold in my face.
Yeah.
Like, if we have consistent deal flow coming in, like, I'm going to close a certain number.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a good month. I'm going to have a bad month. But, like, the consistency of incoming leads, like, stay true to it and do that. And that kind of changed everything, where I think, you know, a lot of the investors fly by night, or the guys that struggle, it's like they'll throw $3,000 at their mailing list, right?
Yep.
And, like, they don't hit a deal.
And then
they stop.
Yeah.
And you hear that, and it breaks your heart, because you know, like, you got to go at least 90 days.
Correct.
And the next month, they probably would have closed a deal or two.
Yeah.
And then that's excitement of like, man, I only spent $6,000, right? $3,000 in 2 months. And I hit a $10,000, you know, double or single, whatever it is. Like, oh, beautiful.
Yep.
Wash, rinse, repeat, right? Like,
that's exactly it. It's, and to the, like, kind of the point we were talking about before, like I had such a limited mindset on going out of the area in marketing in other places, because I'm like, okay, and like you said, you see all these virtual people who are wholesaling across the nation. You're like, what the hell? Like, what are they doing that I'm not doing on my side?
Right.
Or why do I have such a limited belief there? So what we started doing as of probably a month ago, if that, is we started branching off, and we bought a place down in Sun Prairie. But I'm like, that's an hour and 20 from here.
Yeah.
So, and then I was just talking to a lead this morning in Brookfield, and I'm like, well, that's again, an hour and 20 or hour and 15 minutes or whatever the case is. But my thought process around it is, and I quote both those people, I quoted them over the phone. I'm like, hey, I saw on the form you wanted this much. Like, we're not going to be at that price. Yeah. I said, and I'm totally straight up with them. I said, with that being said, like, realistically, we're probably more in this range. Yeah. I don't know if you would want us to come out, whatever the pitch is. But in those areas, I found that there's a hell of a lot more population, but then the average price point goes from whatever, $270 in Appleton to $450 in those neighborhoods. So I'm like, well, a 10% deal down there is 100% more money than a 10% deal in this area. Like, if you're making a margin. So my thought process is, okay, if we average whatever, 25,000 on a flip or 30,000 on a flip. Down there, we could be averaging 45 or 50,000 for literally the same
So
amount
you're
of
saying
work.
your spread up here is more?
No, our spread up here
based on the dollar that you need to purchase the house
correct.
for, though?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's like my thought process.
Yeah.
And like our average, so in full transparency, our flips average like 27 and some change is what it was across the board. And but then for buying and reselling properties, we were at like 24 and some change. And I'm like, well, what the hell? Like that's like we just bought them, we cleaned them out, we relisted them on the market, and that's
okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm like, well, why can we not implement that same thing down there? We need basically a clean out crew, a cleaner, and then do the same exact thing and list them. And just because their average price point's more, we can make more money.
Yeah.
So that's what like opened my mind. And we had some guys in here that were like, hey, the reason I went down to Milwaukee or Madison or whatever is just because there's more population. And just because there's more population doesn't necessarily mean there's more competition. There's a lot more like shady people, I would say.
Yeah.
However, when you talk to those owners, at least from what I've experienced so far, they're talking to maybe the experienced investor, ourselves, versus the person who's only done a couple deals. And just through the conversation, they already know who's the legitimate person, who's not. And it's just a totally different game. And that's what kind of, and I would encourage you to, even if you don't pursue it or look into it, like that was the break for me in my mind that I'm like, we could make another 15 grand doing the exact same thing, but just by moving locations slightly. And it's a little bit more possibly drive time in the beginning. But if you can assemble a team or assemble like a real estate agent or whatever down there, they're going to do a lot of the legwork. So
yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So that's kind of my thoughts there.
It kind of goes to the point of what you're saying versus, do I want to spend my time, on a $5 or $5,000 deal versus spend the same amount of time on a $15,000, $20,000 deal, and that's something that we've been kind of looking at and wanting to see like, okay, where is our average for all these? Which one takes the most amount of time and effort and just mental, frustration and capacity? And is that profit, that average, worth that much? If not, what's the next best, step that we can kind of go for? And that seems like, say, like wholesaling or just buying resale, those seem to take us. I mean, it doesn't really take a whole lot of effort other than doing the thing that we love, which is locking up deals and then getting it back out on the market. Yeah. And you're still able to make a decent amount of money on that versus spending 3-4 months headaches of renovations and everything like that, and still potentially end up coming up short or just barely breaking even, Well,
especially with your guys' numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, you said 24 and 27.
Yeah, I know.
That's a no-brainer.
Right.
Correct. And that's what I'm like, we literally ran through it probably New Year's Eve or whatever.
That's
I'm like,
New Year's Eve,
a big deal.
And I'm like, because we had some huge home runs that were just buy and resell.
Oh my God.
And but then we had some flips, and I'm like, yeah, we lost money.
Yep.
We literally made like $7,000. I'm like, this is
I think
4 months of work
like
for
$2,000.
Yeah.
It was like, come on.
Yeah. And then it's like you got to almost take it a step further, like you're saying. And like, we don't do this, but the anxiety, right? The stress of the project, what does it cost to have your money tied up?
Yep.
Right? Like, I'm money short right now. I got 2 flips, I got whatever, $100,000 of cash in there. And I'm like, I'm at the point like, dude, just break even and get my money out.
Right.
So there's that. And then there's this idea that we don't talk enough about is like short money versus long money.
Yep.
And what can you do like on wholesaling or what you guys are just doing, relisting, I would call, wholesaling or just whatever, buying clothes and relisting, right? Same thing. But it's like, if you can be out of it in 45 days, and even if you make 10 grand less, but your numbers are almost
identical.
Even,
yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's worth it to me because then it's a win. You feel good, boost the team up, you get your money out of the deal, and then it's like the next one. Where, I mean, I got a 8-plex in Fondy. It's like, I got $50,000 cash into it on the renovations. It's not selling. It's sitting. now I'm a landlord for these tenants that I don't want.
Yep.
You know, and it's just like, we're going on, what are we going on? I think 4 months or 5 months. Drains you.
Yeah. It does. And
you know,
that's what Joe and I have had conversations. No one talks about that.
Yeah.
They talk about the highlight reel of, hey, everything's going extremely well, so on and so forth. But it's the shit that comes with renovating properties, managing, and that's not my strong suit. Like I don't enjoy the renovation process. It's pretty much everything from initial lead to locking up the deal to the closing, and then if I have nothing to do with it, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But it's insightful. We'll wrap the conversation there. I appreciate you coming on.
Awesome.
If you guys enjoyed the content, hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.